Welcome back for another playthrough of the Pathfinder Adventure Card Game. In this playthrough, we'll be going through Scenario 1C, the Wizard's Estate. But before we go through those details, let's talk about what happened to Mary in the last playthrough. She did not make it out alive. So Mary was from the rugged northern waste, born in a clan of male warriors. She bested them all and was sent on a suicide mission to retrieve a frost giant's sword. With that monstrous weapon in hand, Mary made it clear that no one should ever underestimate her again. And to all the characters in this game, be aware, you should not underestimate what I can do while playing cards and rolling dice. So a few last words from the good book, the Rulebook. This game will try to kill you, and it just did. So with that, Sione has found a new character to come along with her, Valeros. He is kind of decent with strength melee, all right with dexterity, constitution's good, so he's got 3 good stats. Intelligence is a problem for him, wisdom, okay, and charisma with diplomacy would be all right. So proficiencies in armor and weapons. Powers are interesting. On a local combat check, you may reload or recharge a weapon or an armor to add a d4. At the end of your turn, you may recharge a weapon or an armor from your hand or discard. So that's good, especially if I can remember it. And then lastly, you may avenge by discarding a card. So he's got a favorite weapon of a sword. And now getting to the scenario. Basically, the town has asked our characters to go investigate the wizard's manor. We are to catalog all his possessions and hold it for an estate auction. So anything that we collect from these locations, we will not get to put in our hand. They'll go to the side at the end of the game. In addition to getting a hero point, we'll count the number of cards in the auction pile, then banish, and then the party will get an equal number of new boons of any type. As far as what we'll be facing, for dangers, each time you encounter the danger, randomly choose a new Eldritch Storybane. We'll go over that here a little further. There is no villain. We have 3 locations, so we'll choose the 3 henchmen, which will be closing henchmen, the accuser devil, Shay, and a witness. And then the special items for this scenario. At the end of your move step, roll a d12. On a 1 to 6, summon and encounter the corresponding random Eldritch Storybane. So after our move step, we'll roll a d12. If we roll a 1 to 6, we'll reference this chart. So 1 through 6 and the Eldritch Banes, so that'll tell us what Storybane we will have to encounter before we get to proceed any further. And then also, when you acquire a weapon, a spell, an armor, or an item, we'll put it in the auction pile for the end of the game. So a few extra steps to keep up with here. As for our locations, in the chambers, when you fail to acquire a boon, shuffle it into the location. To close, you need to succeed at a dexterity or stealth. It'll be a 6 check, or summon and defeat the danger. At the library, on your check against a spell or a book boon, add a d6. To close or guard, succeed at an intelligence or knowledge 6-up check. And when closed, you may heal a discarded or buried book card. And lastly, at the manor, the start of your turn, you may recharge an item or a spell to draw a card. To close, succeed at a charisma or diplomacy check, needing a 6. And when closed, search your deck for a card and draw it. So we have already drawn our starting cards. So we've got 2 weapons and 2 armors for Valeros. And for Sione, we have an ally, 2 spells, 2 items, and a blessing. And I've corrected all our decks. This is a loot card we acquired from the last scenario, so this is why we're allowed to have a level 2 ally in this deck. So rearrange this a little bit to put a dice tray in here for us. So we'll go ahead and start the first round, advancing the hour. So no effect for this hour. I'm not much for giving cards, maybe later. So before we do anything else, we'll go ahead and display our armor. So when you suffer combat damage, you may recharge to reduce it by 2. When you suffer any damage, you may bury to reduce it to 0. And to avenge, you may discard a card. So we'll go ahead and display that. And then we will stay at the chambers. So at the end of our move step, we'll roll our D12, getting a 4. Reference our chart. So we are going to encounter a mysterious relic. So for this, we'll need an intelligence knowledge of 5 or a perception of 7. And I think we are not going to be good at any of those. Intelligence is a D4, and perception, we cannot perceive very well. We don't have that skill. So let's see how bad failing this would be. If undefeated, each local character moves to a random location and suffers the scourge dazed. And I think that's behind one of our other people here. Yep. You may not examine locations. If you explored this turn, you may not explore again. If you didn't suffer the scourge on this turn, at the end of your turn, shuffle your hand into your deck and remove this scourge. So I have a feeling that's what's going to happen to us here. I'm just not that concerned with blessing that, so we will auto fail. We'll move to a random location. So we'll go 1 to 3 for the library, 4 to 6 for the manor. We will run over to the manor, becoming dazed. So just put that there. We'll go ahead and explore. Finding an acid flask, needing intelligence craft. So we know we've got a D4, so there's a chance we can acquire this, but probably not a good one. So rolling in there, got a 1. So we did not acquire this. We'll go ahead and remove it. And that is going to end our turn. So we'll go ahead and draw up to 4 and pass turn over to Sione. No effect for this hour. She'll stay where she's at, so into her turn, or move, or roll and get a 2. So I'm going to roll low and encounter an elemental. So for this, we'll need a combat check of 13, because we are in an Adventure 1 scenario, so 11 plus 1 plus 1, since there's 2 pound signs there. Powers, roll a d4. This monster gains the trait, is immune to, and all damage is a 2. So it's going to be cold. And after acting, suffer 1 damage. So let's see what Sione wants to do. It's not immune to anything. We'll go ahead and use the lightning touch. So it's going to give us our arcane plus 2d4. And since this is a monster, even though it's a story bane, it does have the monster type. Ignore its after acting power, so we can ignore taking that 1 damage after this attack. So we'll get a D12 plus 2D4. And we will be able to add 2 to this roll. So now it's just a matter of how bad do we want to beat this thing. I don't want to take damage. So we'll go ahead and discard this to bless to get us another D12. Looking for a 13. So we've got 8 plus another 6. Plus our 2 bonus, so more than enough to defeat the monster. So then we will go ahead and move on to our exploration into the library. Finding a codex, need intelligence knowledge of 5. And let's see, at this location, on your check against a spell or a book boon, add a D6. So we'll get a little bonus here. So our intelligence is a D8 plus 1. And we get to add a D6, looking for a 5. We got a 9. So we've acquired a codex item, but for this scenario, it goes to an auction place. So we'll hide that card up here in the auction. And we will go ahead and use our Staff of Healing. So we were recharged to heal a local character, a card. So we'll finish this effect first and then go through with the healing. So recharge that by putting it in the back. One random card in our discard pile, we'll shuffle that in. We'll do recovery for our spell. And then draw back up to our hand size of 6. Getting a crow, Drugami, and our quarterstaff of vaulting. So we are ally heavy. But we'll pass the turn over to Valeros. Checking the hour. On each check, the first blessing played to bless may be played freely. We'll go ahead and move back to the chambers. At the end of our move, roll to see what we get. So we get a 9, so we will not encounter a story bane. We will go ahead and explore, finding a locked door. So we need a strength melee of an 11 or disable of 7. Check to defeat. You may recharge an axe or bludgeoning weapon to add a D8. If undefeated, mark this barrier's location with the Scourge Entangled. And if defeated, remove the Scourge Entangled from this location. You may explore. So first, we'll try to kick in the door. Our strength melee is going to be a D10 plus 2. We currently do not have an axe or bludgeoning weapon, so a D10 is probably not going to be enough for us. So we will go ahead and bless this check. Our current blessing is a 1, so we will actually discard this card to do the blessing. We could have possibly, if the hour was a 0, we could have recharged it instead, but not that lucky. So we get 2d10 plus 2 on each die. We rolled a 3, so even with our bonuses, we are not going to beat this. So we'll mark this location with the Scourge Entangled, which probably is, nope, not that one. So the Chambers is entangled. Cannot evade or move. When your location is closed, remove this Scourge. Now this game does go with tokens to mark these things in case they go to multiple places, but for right now, we'll just use the card to mark our spot. And since we didn't bust down the locked door, it kind of makes sense that we will reload this barrier into that location. So we'll go back on top of the deck there. Then we will end our turn. If you didn't suffer the scourge on this turn, at the end of your turn, shuffle your hand into your deck and remove the scourge. So we're no longer dazed, but we will shuffle our 3 remaining cards into our deck. And just note that cards that we have displayed are not considered to be part of our hand. And then we will draw 4 cards. I'll bring this back over on the flip side so I know what to do on my turn. We found our horse, a guide, a warhammer, so now we have a bludgeoning weapon, and we have a prayer. So passing to Sione. When you would discard a boon to bless a dexterity or charisma check, you may recharge it instead. We'll keep her in the library. So we'll roll for Storybanes. Have a 3, which is going to be the monster whose name I shall not try to pronounce. So check to defeat, combat a 10, or an intelligence craft. Immune to mental and poison. Before acting, choose a card type and examine the top card of your location. If no examined card is of that type, the difficulty to defeat is increased by 4. If undefeated, suffer the scourge exhausted. So if we're in the library, we're just going to say spell is going to be on top of our deck. Seems the most likely. So we will examine this card. It's not a spell. Got a blessing on top, so combat to defeat this is going to be a 14. We will attempt to hit the monster with an acid arrow. It's immune to mental and poison, so this does not have those traits. We will get our arcane plus 2d4. Let's find our d4s again. And this will go to our recovery area. And then we're going to go ahead on a local combat or survival check. Recharge to add another d4. And we'll recharge that. So with these 4 dice, we're looking for a total of 14. We have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we've missed it by 3. Okay, so we've got 3 damage to take care of. We'll use our bracers of protection. When you suffer combat damage, freely reveal to reduce it by 1. Then we need to get rid of 2 cards for the other damage. So we will get rid of our bracers and quarterstaff. And just to explain something about the bracers real quick. Typically you can only play 1 type of card for every item. Usually when a card says you may freely reveal to reduce it by 1, that will count if you have a different item. So I could not use both of these powers for the same check. And that's straight from the rulebook in one of the sections. So we've taken our 2 damage from that. And now it comes down to, do we want to risk exploring? And now that my memories come back, yes we do, because it's a blessing on top of that deck. Or is that at the manor? I can't remember. No, it was here. So we've got a blessing to try to check. Needing a charisma divine of 5. So that will be a D12 for us, needing a 5 or better. And we will go ahead and, on a local check to acquire, recharge to add a D6 to this. Give us a better chance. So we got a 16. And this was the one type of boon in this that doesn't go to the auction. So this we actually get in our hand. And we will stop there. We'll recover and recharge our spell, and then draw 4 more cards to get our hand size back up to 6. And now we've got plenty of blessings and a couple of spells. So back to Val's turn. The hour has no effect. We are stuck at this location whether we like it or not. And after our move step, we'll roll our D12. almost forgot there. Found a 3, which is this guy again. Well, at least now we know we can choose a type of card and examine. We're going to say barrier. Hey, we're right. So we do not add 4 to this. So we just need a 10. So for this combat, we will reveal our Warhammer to get our strength die, which is a D10 plus 2, and also a D8 with another plus 1. So we'll be adding 3 to this die roll. And since Sione has a lot of blessings, and the hour is currently a 0, we will use this card to bless it and recharge it instead. So we'll get another D10 here. And we're looking for a 10. And we've succeeded. Got 20 showing, so we beat the monster. Now we're going to go ahead and try to kick in the door. So we're looking for a 10 with our strength melee check. I'm sorry, an 11. So that gets us a D10. We will go ahead and recharge our bludgeoning weapon here, so we can add another D8. And just because I'm not trusting my luck with dice, I'm going to go ahead and bless this, getting us another D10, so we're looking for an 11. So we've got 11 with our dice, and of course we had bonus modifiers, so we have kicked down the door. So if defeated, remove the scourge entangled from this location, and you may explore. So we're no longer entangled, and we'll get another explore in. We found a war drum. Constitution, Charisma. So our Charisma is a D6. And well, I'm not too concerned about getting the war drum. When you fail to acquire a boon, shuffle it into its location. So we won't be able to progress. So we have Sione. We'll go ahead and use this blessing on a check to acquire. Recharge to bless. So we will get 2d6. And try to get some more drums. So we've acquired some more drums to put in the auction. And that will end our turn. So we'll draw 2 cards. Finding a dog slicer and a prayer. Then for Sione's turn, check the blessing, no effect. For movement, we'll stay in the library. Getting a 12, so finally we won't be getting an encounter. We've already played 2 of our cards. So we'll go ahead and explore here. Finding a good omen. Needing intelligence, wisdom, arcane, or divine. Our arcane is a D12 plus 2. And once again, since this is a spell, we'll get a D6 added to that. So, needing a 6. Getting an 11 plus 2. So we acquired a spell to go into the auction. And then we will just go ahead and end our turn. Getting a Staff of Minor Healing, which we'll be using on our next turn. So on to Val. Advancing the hour, no effect. He'll stay at the chambers. We'll roll for end of move step. Getting a 4. Will be the Mysterious Relic, which we've played with before. We can't pass this without a blessing, and I'm not that bothered about being dazed and being moved, so we'll just go ahead and fail this. Get moved to a random location, same thing. Library be 1 to 3, manor 4 to 6. We're running back over to the manor, and we become dazed. Go ahead and explore. Finding the Evil Eye. Arcane Divine of a 7, or Knowledge Stealth of 8, +1. Cannot be evaded. If undefeated, suffer the Scourge Daze, then banish this barrier. That works well for us, because we can't pass it, and we are already dazed. So that kind of went okay for us. We already have 4 cards in hand, so that will end our turn. Going over to Sione. For the hour, on each check, the first blessing played to bless may be played freely. For movement, she'll stay in the library. Rolling a 2. I need to roll higher with this die. That will find us an elemental. We've seen this guy before. We need a 13. We're rolling a d4 to see what kind of damage that's going to be. Rolled a 1, so it's going to be acid. So it's immune to acid, so we'll shoot it with fire. So we'll get our arcane die, a d12 plus 2. Then we'll get 2 d6s and put this in our recovery area. Then we're going to bring in our riding Allosaurus on a local combat check. Recharge to add a d6. So he'll go over and attempt to bite with us. So we're looking for a 13. Alright, so 3, 12, 18 plus another 2. So we've defeated him. After acting, suffer 1 damage. So we'll lose 1 of our blessings. And we'll go ahead and use our Staff of Minor Healing to recharge. And randomize these cards. Put 1 there and shuffle our deck up. We'll go ahead and end our turn to recover this card and reload it. Then we will draw back up to 6. So, getting lucky with this thing. And the locate object might be useful for us also. So back to Val's turn, advancing the hour. When you would discard a boon to bless a strength or constitution check, you may recharge it instead. Then we will move back over to the chambers. That's right, we're done with that die. We're going to try a different d12. For movement, yeah, well, it's a 2, which is the elemental we just faced. So that's going to be a d4. That's going to be fire damage. So now we need a 13 to defeat this guy. So the only weapon we have is our dog slicer. So we use our melee check, which is a d10, add in a d6. And we can additionally discard it to add another d6, which I will go ahead and do that because of his power that at the end of the turn we can recharge a weapon or an armor from our hand or discards. So we're looking for 13. So we've got 10, 15, 17, 18, so we beat up the elemental. But one thing about discarding our dog slicer, we have no weapons. So I'm not going to risk an attack right now. So we'll go ahead and end our turn. And because of dazed, we will go ahead and shuffle our hand into our deck and remove the dazed. And then from his power, we'll go ahead and recharge the sword and then draw a hand of 4 cards. Not finding any weapons. Alright, so that will end his turn. Pass turn to Sione. When you heal, you may heal an additional card. That's going to be convenient. We'll go ahead and heal, so we'll recharge this to get 2 cards. And we have 2 in our discard pile. For movement, we'll keep her where she's at. Roll her d12. Getting a 5, which is going to be a screaming lock. So dexterity, arcane, or disable of 8. Before acting, each local character suffers 1 mental damage that cannot be reduced. So, let's see here. We'll go ahead and lose our force missile. And our arcane is going to be a d12 plus 2. And we'll just go with the die roll. So we need a 6 on this die roll. Got an 11, so a total of 13. So we defeated the screaming lock. And then we'll go ahead and explore. Finding boots of friendly terrain. So dexterity and stealth of an 8. We have a d6 plus 1 for dexterity. And stealth is not something we know about. So we cannot get this, so that will just go away. And we will go ahead and end our turn drawing 2 cards. Getting 2 more blessings. Passing turn to Val. Blessing on your combat non-attack combat check. I'm sorry, on your non-attack combat check, add 1. So for movement, we're just going to stay where we're at. Getting a 2, which will be the elemental, which is a fight, and we don't know how to fight at the moment. So combat, we need a 13, and this damage is going to be fire damage. So for combat, we're allowed to use our strength melee, so that's going to be a d10. We will have Sione bless it to add another d10. And that's the best we can do. So we have 2 of these. We'll be adding plus 2 for each die, needing a 13. So we have 9 plus our 4, which will barely get us where we need to go. So then we will go ahead and use our Elixir of Healing. Banish to heal a local character, 1d4 plus 1 cards. So we'll go ahead and banish this card. Roll our d4 and add 1 to it. Oops, we'll keep it on in our bin. So we get 2 plus 1. We will be healing 3 cards. So 2 cards will go into our deck to be shuffled. And since we are not doing well on weapons, I'm going to go ahead and use our horse to recharge to move. You may not use this power during an encounter, so we'll just move over to the library so we can get another card out of our hand and hopefully draw a weapon to end our turn. We didn't. Found some thieves' tools and a chain shirt. So on to Sione's turn. Blessing, no effect. Movement will stay in the library. Rolling an 8, so no story bane. We'll go ahead and explore. Finding a rat swarm. Need a combat of 9. They're vulnerable to attack. So that means if we use something with the attack keyword, we'll add 4 to our die roll. And if defeated by less than 4, shuffle this monster into its location. So we'll need a 13 or more to kill it. Anything less than that, it's going to get shuffled into the deck. So we're going to touch this rat swarm with lightning. It does have the attack keyword. So we'll be adding 4 to this. For your combat check, banish to use our arcane. So we've got a d12 plus 2d4. The check is against a monster. Ignore its after acting powers. So we'll set this over to the side. We'll use our cat for the local combat check. We'll recharge to add a D4. And then just for good measure, since the hour is a 0, we will recharge to get another D12. So we're looking for 13. We're already adding 6. Actually, we're already adding 8 to this. We've got 2 of those dice and the +4 for it being vulnerable. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 20 showing on the dice. That's more than enough to kill the rat swarm. And with that, we'll go ahead and end our turn, recharging our spell, and then drawing back up to 6. Getting blessing, a couple more spells, and the crow. So for Val, no effect for the hour. With a hand with no weapons, kind of at a loss as to what to do with him. So, being at a loss, he'll just run into the manor after a move, rolling a d12. Getting a 9. So no story bane, so now it's down to, do we risk it and search so we don't keep wasting our turns? I mean, we've got a blessing in hand, got an armor we can discard for a d4. We'll go ahead and risk looking in the manor, finding a spell. Intelligence, wisdom, arcane, or divine. Our wisdom is a d6. So there's a chance we could get this. Chance is over. And the spell will be discarded. All right, so we'll go ahead and end his turn. On to Sione. On your check, you may discard a card to re-roll 1 die showing a 1 or 2. Movement, she'll stay where she's at in the library. Rolling a 3, which is going to be our big monster here. So before acting, we'll just say spell. Take a look here, and we found our story bane. So this is going to be a 14 to defeat. And we know there's a big fight coming up later. So we will use acid arrow. Well, that's good if Val gets in trouble. Just going to use her power. For a combat check, you may discard a card to use arcane plus 2d4 plus the card's level and add the attack, force, and magic traits. This counts as playing an arcane spell. So that's got a +1 on there. So we're getting an arcane, a d12 plus 2d4. We'll have +2 for her ability and a +1 for the spell. And we'll go ahead and bless this with another d12. So needing a 14. Getting 17 plus another 7 plus a whole bunch more. So we beat up the story bane there. So now we'll go ahead and go after our accuser devil. Immune to fire and poison. Which is weird because this is a firebolt, but it does not have the magic or fire keyword. Before acting, suffer 1 acid damage. So let's see here. So just double checking Rulebook, it says when something's immune, it's immune to traits, which is down here. And this is the name of the card. So from what I can understand of the rules, even though he's immune to fire and poison, this is not fire. So we can go ahead and use this card against him. So this is going to be our arcane, which is a d12 plus 2d6. Get that set up for recovery. Since we need Val to draw into a weapon, he'll bless this for another d12. And we're looking for a 14. And what we have doesn't look promising. So we have 5, so we've got 10 here. And since we've got our 2 arcane, so we do end up with 14. So that was lucky. So we beat up our Story Bane. So now we need to succeed at an intelligence or knowledge 6 check. Our knowledge is a d8 plus 1. So we'll go ahead and bless that for another d8 plus 1. Looking for a 6. And we got that shown on the dice with our bonuses, so we've closed this location. And we will have Sione move over here, and we will go ahead and move our auction items down here for us. So we'll go ahead and end our turn. We'll recharge our spell and then draw back up to 6. Then for Val, he'll go ahead and move over here, rolling a d12, getting an 8, so no encounter. And now it's just tired of risking him. But we will go ahead and do that because Sione can back him up with the acid arrow. So on a distant combat check, banished added 2d4 in the acid attack and magic traits. So with no weapon in hand, we're going to explore, finding the other Story Bane. Alright, so we need a 13 combat or diplomacy arcane check. So we got a d6 plus 2 or 13. It's immune to cold. Before acting, 2 random local characters suffer 1 force damage. And while acting, damage suffered from this monster is cold. So first we're taking a damage, which we will go ahead and recharge to reduce that down. Then for the combat, that will give us a d10 plus 2. With special ability, we can reload or recharge. I need some weapons, so I'm just going to recharge this for another d4. And then Sione will shoot an acid arrow, getting her arcane ability. It will be a d12 plus 2 plus 2 more d4s. And we are looking for a 13 on this. So here's a 16, 19, 20, plus some modifiers. So we have defeated the Bane. No after effects. That's 2 in a row. So for closing this location, need to succeed at a dexterity or stealth 6 check or summon and defeat the danger. The danger is up here. Our dexterity is a d8. Yeah, I don't think he's got it in him to fight another monster, so I don't want to risk that. So D8 for dexterity. Use our guide. On a local check to close her guard, recharge to add a D6. And Sione has nothing to help with, so we are looking for 6. Getting a 12, so 2 turns and 2 locations closed. Feeling a little bit better. There's a lot of stuff in that deck. So then he will move over to the manor, and in his turn, with 1 card in hand, so we'll draw 3. 2 blessings, and finally he has a weapon he can use. And we knew it was going to happen at some time. I forgot to do a blessing for him, so it had no effect. So on to Sione's turn. Her blessing for the turn is also a no effect. So ending her movement, getting a 5. Just going to be a screaming lock. So before acting, each local character suffers 1 mental damage that cannot be reduced. So Val's going to lose his thieves' tools. And over here, since we have no spells in hand, I think we'll just discard our quarterstaff. For exploring, and a lost local, need a charisma, diplomacy, or survival check. So our diplomacy is a D12 plus 2. Undefeated, suffer the scourge dazed, and in your turn. So I am good with that. So we're attempting to acquire, need a 5 on a D12 plus 2. Got a 13. So we've helped the lost local. Since we have a lot of cards in the discard pile, we're going to try healing ourselves. So we recharge that to heal 1 card. And shuffle that in our deck. Then we will recharge our spell and draw 3 cards. Getting our bracers back and some more spells. So ending our turn, Laris's turn. On your check against an undead card, add a D6. Into movement, got a 7. So we're good there, and he'll go ahead and explore, finding a standard bearer, charisma, diplomacy, or melee. So his melee is the D10 plus 2. And I'm okay with just this die roll, so we need a 4 on the die to succeed. So we got an 8, which gets us to a 10. So we got that card, which goes down into the auction. And we'll go ahead and end our turn. And right now we've got plenty of turns left. So we found another weapon. Passing turn to Sione. On your check against an outsider card, add a D4. She's definitely staying at the manor. So for movement, got a 6, which is going to be trapped furniture. Need a wisdom perception of 8 or a craft disable of 6. We didn't examine. So let's see. Wisdom is a D6, and craft and disable isn't going to happen. So we're just going to lose this, which means we will get a barrier. So we just pull one out of here. Found a wounded wanderer. Wisdom, craft, divine, survival. May bear a healing boon to defeat this barrier. Let's see here. We've got nothing to heal with, so our wisdom is a D6. Go ahead and have Val plus this to give us another D6 so that at least there's a chance. And we got a 9. So we've defeated the barrier. So for our turn, we will encounter finding a black cat in the manor. So wisdom, arcane, survival. Our arcane's a D12 plus 2. So let's see if we can get a cat for the auction. So we got a 13. So our cat will go up for auction. And I'm actually incorrect on that. Allies are not part of the items that go to auction. So the cat will actually come to her hand. And the standard bearer would have gone to our warrior's hand in the last turn, which means he wouldn't have drawn the other prayer card. So just to retcon that, we'll just put this on, recharge that card. So we'll go ahead and use our cat. Discard to explore. This exploration will checks that invoke the magic trait, add a D4. We'll look again, finding a magic chain shirt. Constitution Fortitude of 7. So we'd be rolling a D6. So basically the magic chain shirt will be discarded. That will end our turn. So go on to Val, advancing the hour, no effect. End a move, rolling and getting a 7, so no bane. Just a couple 3 cards here, so exploring. We found a witness. All right, so we need a charisma, diplomacy, or knowledge of 8. Undefeated. All right, so there's nothing else. So our charisma is a D6. Diplomacy adds a 2. So we're going to be a D6 plus 2. The hour is 0. So we'll be able to recharge this to bless it. Adding another D6. And Val is not the guy I wanted to find this card with, but that's what happened. Sione can't, so once again we need an 8, and we got lucky and got an 8, so that is beaten. And now the harder part, close this location. We need to succeed at a charisma or diplomacy of 6. So we already know that's a D6 plus 2. So with our plus 2, we're hoping for a 4 or better. And the dice are loving us at the end of this game. Phew. So we have closed this location and won the scenario. So with that, each of us is going to get a hero point, which is going to be easy for Val. He's just going to keep it there. Sione, we're just going to get it and spend it because we already have a hero point in case she dies at a later time. So if I make another video, I'll let you know what we upgrade on her. Then count the number of cards in the auction pile, then banish it. The party gets an equal number of new boons of any types. So we have 3 cards in our auction pile. So what I'm going to do is look for a spell for Sione and let Val look for 2 weapons. So into our weapon deck here, give it a shuffle. So we found a battle axe and a short bow that we'll never use. So for a spell for, you know what? A lot of the spells aren't going to help us that much. We'll just go for an item. And see if we can get lucky there. So random item is a crowbar. So rewards did not help us much. Just from a quick glance at the rules, when it says obtain a new card, it really doesn't say if it's random or pick, so I'm just going with random. If I'm wrong on that, someone please just let me know, and I will get that fixed for another adventure. So with that, we are done exploring the wizard's estate. I hope you enjoyed this video, so please click on the like button below and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.